March 2023.
April.
Is it April already?
April 3rd.
April, correction, April 3rd, 2023. So I'll call this meeting to order at, looks like 7:02. We have a quorum with Commissioners Neva, Commissioner Gentini, and myself, Commissioner Cruz. Okay, let's see. So at this time, we need to approve the agenda. So Commission has all received the proposed agenda. Is there any changes or amendments to the agenda that need to be announced? Okay, well then we will get a motion to approve this agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second it.
All right. Motion by Commissioner Neva, second by Commissioner Gentini. So the agenda moves forward as proposed. So next we'll approve the minutes from which month we had? February, right? The minutes from February. Did all the commissioners receive these minutes?
I did.
Okay. Is there any?
I'll make a motion to approve them.
Okay. There's no changes that need to be made? No. Okay. So motion was made to approve the minutes from the previous meetings by Commissioner Gentini. And did you second?
Yes, I'll second.
And seconded by Bill. All right. So at this time, this is a time for public input. We don't have anybody from the public at this time in this. Or is there anybody from the public that would like to speak up? Okay. All right, so then we'll move on to item number 4. I'm sorry, item number 5, the Community Safety Preparedness Program update.
So this is my item, I believe. So we were hoping to do something, I think starting in March, April. And as we all know, it seems like disasters just keep continuing. So Andrew has been really inundated with snowstorms and response and storm damage. Everything started off with the earthquake, and then we just went right on through the gamut of all the natural disasters in our community. So he hasn't really had time to spend on this. And so I'm hoping that we can do this starting in May. I hope by May we are going to be through snowstorms and mudslides and craziness, but who knows, because we have a lot of snowpack. So the plan is to start in May. I did talk to Andrew. He is interested in doing a smoke detector giveaway program in partnership with the fire department and staging up at the fire department to do that program. So I'll be working on that with him as well. That seems like a good little program. And then we'll, as soon as he's got some time and frees up some capacity, we'll launch the monthly preparedness program. So we still have a plan to do it. And I think it should be pretty straightforward to pull it off. I just need the Red Cross to help out with that one. So we'll be continuing to work on that.
This is the Safety Sunday plan that we had.
Yeah.
The first one will be Red Cross.
Yeah, so we were planning on doing a basic preparedness class, just kind of an intro to like how, as a family or as as a community, how would you create a basic home preparedness kit? What are some things to think about? Just kind of the basic intro course, and he's already got an established program for that. It's also a good way to kind of reach out to get people some training and then maybe loop them into some Red Cross programming to see if maybe we can even get some volunteers from Blue Lake that might want to move into some of Andrew's programs as well. So it seems like he's got a pretty dialed in program that we can launch fairly easily.
Okay. Do we have, we had a list at one point of ideas that we were proposing to do. Is that just kind of a rough draft?
Yeah, I mean, it was a rough draft, basically trying to then go out and trying to find the resources to be able to do it. So it seemed like the easiest route at first was to start off with Red Cross, since they already have all the programming. They've got some capacity once they free up from the disasters to have some staff help with it too. I think he's got some AmeriCorps workers now as well. So it seems like an easy one. We could also work with the CERT. So it seemed like this was kind of the best way to launch this without making it too complicated.
Will we know ahead of time kind of what we'll be planning for the previous or the following month?
Yeah, I was going to talk with Andrew about that. He kind of had a little bit of a progression of ideas on, how you build on your capacity to increase your training and your preparedness. So I'll talk with him about what he thinks the next steps would be.
Okay, and it'll be with other agencies as well, right? Not just Red Cross?
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, we talked about doing some neighborhood watch stuff. It just depends on who has resources to help. That's always the limiting factor. I mean, it sounds like a good idea, and then, you go to reach out. Everyone's short-staffed. Everyone's really busy and committed. So it really comes down to what resources are available to help do this.
I'd really like to see just a first aid CPR, non-cert class.
And I do believe CERT I think they're getting a couple of people trained to be trainers possibly. So that was one of our items, because I wanted to get some of my staff trained up that don't necessarily need the full first aid, but some of the younger LITs and stuff, I wanted to get them involved in that as well. So.
Okay. Were there any comments or discussion on this item topic?
Yeah, the thing in May is kind of just a one-time smoke detector issue.
Yeah, I think he's
Not
just doing
installed.
probably like a one-day thing. Just
Not installing them.
no, just handing them out. Okay. Probably like home safety, probably like, know your escape route info, and then do the handoff.
The fire department can do installs as well, right?
I don't know. We give them away. I don't know if we install them.
Okay.
I know we can do checks, but.
So we're going to skip item number 6 and move that to a future agenda item. Andrew Bozier from Red Cross was not able to be here tonight. He's still traveling. So we'll move on to item 8, the security patrol discussion.
There is no 7.
Yeah. Again,
So.
on the 7.
Yeah, so this is a topic that we've talked about in the past, about opportunities to increase more responsive patrols in the community outside of what we currently have with the sheriff contract. As you guys know, we now no longer have any dedicated deputies to Blue Lake like we did in the past. So we're basically just in the queue with the rest of the county. So we do have deputies that patrol. They come through at different times. They might come through if they're going on a route up to Willow Creek, or they're part of kind of their patrol route, but we don't have any dedicated service. And the contract is going to increase. I was told to expect a substantial increase to that contract. And so it was brought to my attention that Trinidad was looking at more of a security patrol opportunity. And this is something that we had looked into, but I think at the time I contacted different companies. There wasn't really an opportunity or capacity yet to do this for a community-wide type program versus more like patrolling businesses or specific areas. Kind of having like a citywide patrol really wasn't on the radar yet, but it sounds like it is now. So Gene is here from Pacific Coast Security. And I reached out to him last week to kind of see what opportunities were available. He's working with Trinidad right now for kind of a pilot project that they're looking at. So I wanted to see if that would be something that was transferable to Blue Lake, because I think what our needs really are, like we have very low crime rates in Blue Lake. But when we do have something, it seems very frontal. And we don't necessarily get the response that we need, or the directed response for the times we need it or the places that we need it, because we are under this larger umbrella of control through the sheriff. And I've always thought that what we really need more is just more eyes on the street. We need, to look at things like lighting, cameras, neighborhood watch, patrols, not so much enforcement, because people don't commit crimes in front of a law enforcement officer. So even if something happens, you're still going to be in the same boat of calling the sheriff, making a report, and whether there's capacity for them to follow up or deal with that. But we need to be more preventative than reactionary. And right now we're just in the reactionary mode, and we're paying a lot of money just to be reactionary. So in looking at options, this is an option that I think could work for Blue Lake. And I wanted to have this conversation here. It was timely. And Gene was available to come and talk with us and kind of give us an overview of what he can do with his company, how it might work for Blue Lake, and maybe what some options are that we can continue to dialogue about and kind of work out some details. So if you don't mind, I can turn it over to you, because I don't know anything more about
speech
it.
prepared.
That's okay.
I'm more than happy to give kind of an overview. So we've been in business since '96. We've done projects for quite a few entities. Can I ask, where does this stuff go? Because I don't know where to kind of draw the line as far as disclosure. Because I have
YouTube.
it's
yeah.
public.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
YouTube.
so I mean, I can give you more detailed stuff, but we don't necessarily talk about what we do for clients.
Right,
yeah.
Out to the public. But we have done work with the city of Eureka. We did Old Town Patrol for quite a few years. Felt like a long time, but I think it was like 5 or 6 years, something like that, on and on. For the redevelopment district, and we had 2 officers down there 11 hours a day, 7 days a week. Old Town, we had the, place was great. I think it's a different time now with the homeless issue, but basically what we can offer, and I'm not a huge salesperson, the security industry kind of sells itself right now. Unfortunately, we're universally short on police officers, throughout the United States. I have no idea where the sheriff is on staffing, but I think our city of Eureka is down like 30%, something like that. Jail's down 52 correctional deputies, last I heard. So we're not a replacement for law enforcement by any means, because we have no police officer powers, but we can, just like you could as private citizens, do citizens arrest when the need's there. But it's mostly a preventative thing for, burglary patrol. Like she says, nobody commits crimes when there's uniforms around. That's kind of the way it is. But we are currently in talks, like she said, with the city of Trinidad for a pilot project. And, you could probably talk to them about what they're looking at for hours and stuff. But I think it's unfortunate. I have a family. I raise a family in Eureka. I would love to see crime rates lower, but I think I have not seen your crime stats here. But if they're good, I mean, the best way to keep them that way is to like she's saying, be preventative as opposed to reactionary. Because once, like Eureka, I mean, I live there. I love the town. I lived there my whole life. But our crime is we're number 5 in the whole state of California right now, or number 4 or 3, something like that, for crimes against people and property. So. Where we do have officers deployed, our statistics kind of speak for themselves. The crime rate drops dramatically, and we're not a lot of the sites. We're not there 24 hours a day, so there still is crime. But we have people there. It's reassuring for the public. Some people would probably take issues with private company coming out here because they have kind of their ideal of what that means. But for the most part, we work in the city of Arcata, which is probably one of the more I'd say tougher crowds to please, and we have no problems there. We have a great working relationship with the city of Arcata and the community.
Do you guys actually work with Arcata, or do you work with private businesses?
Private businesses,
Okay.
but we did patrol their plaza a while back. with the city of Arcata. And that was actually pretty well received. I think the businesses and the people, as sad as it is, even the homeless people appreciate security because they're getting assaulted and crimes against homeless people are up. And, most cities where there's homeless populations. So overall, I think some of the concerns we got into with other entities was, how the reception would be for the public and, what the role was. But, if it's clearly defined role of what we do and what we don't do, I think the people are educated about that. I think the only people that are going to take exception to having extra eyes on the street are going to be the criminals. But, so be it. That's.
So you guys are cruising in marked vehicles?
Yeah, I brought a car out today, so we have just a couple different types of vehicles, but they're all marked. So
And you pretty much eyes and ears.
Mhm.
You can up channel things.
yeah, and we get along. I mean, we get along with Sheriff Hansel and Under Sheriff Rowe. They send clients to us when people are looking for security. So we try to keep within the guidelines of what the sheriff expects. I have really not had any conversations with the sheriff's department about response times and stuff, but generally speaking, they're not real good for us outside the city limit. Well, even inside the city limits of Eureka and Arcata, it can take us 30, 45 minutes when we have a shoplifter in custody. So I've come to expect a lot less from law enforcement from our end and generate less work for them. So we try not to call them unless the need is there. So, rather than call on everything and really overburden them with calls, that we try to, just prevent stuff and deal with it and not, calling for everything. A lot of times just your presence can stop things for people
I
involved.
think that would show a real good faith effort on the part of the city, especially with some of the businesses having issues.
Yeah.
Just having that visibility.
Probably on average, I mean, we do, again, not disclosing what we do, but we do in the neighborhood of probably about 60 different locations for patrol in Eureka. And on the average, we find, I'd have to look at this month's statistics, somewhere between 10 and 15 open doors a night. So that's where businesses leave their doors open, alarm off. Sometimes the door is wide open. So a lot of what we do is preventative in nature. We might find something, a business that has been broken into that they don't have an alarm, because a lot of people don't have alarms, oddly enough. So we'll find a fresh burglary, and then we do call law enforcement. They search the building and notify the owner and stuff. But so a lot of what we do is preventative in nature. We have some clients that hire us for fire watch. So as volunteer firefighters, I guess that's a requirement for some commercial buildings. They have checks regularly checked. They don't have a fire suppression system. So we do stuff like that. But other than that, we our biggest concern that we run into is how the public can perceive it. And to my knowledge, I mean, we probably, I'm sure we have people that don't like us, but like I say, those are probably people that we've made uncomfortable enough. And I'll just say it, Valley West, we've all been to Valley West, we got out there and started that account. That place was,
Well, that's you guys?
that is us.
Okay,
So,
the guys in front of Ray's and all that,
Mhm,
walking around?
yeah.
Okay.
So we do, we do several locations in Arcata, and we start one place, and unfortunately, it's we'll move them. They just get tired of dealing with this. They'll move somewhere else, and then the next person will call. So I generate my own business, so to speak. Not on purpose, but sometimes it's the way it is. But, so if you guys aren't having a homeless problem here, I mean, I'll do respect to the homeless because I'm sympathetic to that. But once that grabs hold of your community, you guys, we'll definitely have to have some law enforcement presence out here because our transient population, there's a lot of different segments of that, but what we're finding is that's become more of an aggressive. We have a terrible mental health system in Humboldt County, so we have a lot of homeless people that have mental health issues that can't be treated, and we come into contact with them almost daily in emergence. If you don't have that problem here, be thankful because it's right outside your door. It's everywhere but here in Ferndale probably.
And Manny, that doesn't affect our place in the sheriff's queue?
I don't think so, honestly, I think we're so marginal for the sheriff that, I've been really concerned with, with shortages. The sheriff hasn't said this to us, but I do get concerned with, with the low, call rate and crime rate that, they know that their services are better spent in other areas. And so in some ways, places like Blake start to become more of a burden on their system than we are a value. We're paying a lot of money still. It's, $160,000+. But at the end of the day, they're so short-staffed that it's really hard for them to even commit resources out here. So, and then you start going, gosh, what are we paying for at that point? So I've always thought that a security patrol would be better. We've tried to get scope. We've tried to do our own scope program, get people going. We've tried neighborhood watch and walking patrols because those are the things that, it is the preventative activity and action that's going to, prevent things from happening. There's no sense in just filing a report afterwards. The crime's done, people are gone, the stuff is gone, and there's very, very little chance that there's going to be anything concluded that's, we've had several burglaries down at Ryan and Alicia's place, and they know who's done it. They have them on film, and the guys are still walking the streets. So we really have to figure out ways to. And the problem is they know when no one's there. They know when it's the darkest. They know when the response time is going to be the longest. And there's, that's when we need some type of patrol and, and it needs to be a collective. It can't just be, the patrol and everything. You have to have security cameras and lighting and, all those things. But this is a big piece of the puzzle that's missing.
Well, I like this idea of Fort Blue Lake because I've lived in communities in Elk Grove and stuff that have, patrol like that. And
Right.
we all have magnets on our fridge with the phone number. And if you see something, you call them. And
Right.
they're there in 5 minutes where the sheriff's going to be 45.
Yeah.
They're not going to come knock on your door, but you're going to see the light, of them just extra patrol in the area. And that's usually all you need. And people go away because you see lights.
And there's really just pockets of places in Blue Lake. There's, the Powers Creek District is one. Eventually we're going to have a lot more development down there, and that's going to mean more people are down there, living down there, circulating. But right now, when it's dark, it is like zombie land down there. You can't see 2 feet in front of your face, and there's no street lighting. There's, and we have a few little cutover routes that we know are quick routes, onto the old 299, and we know where they're going. We're not getting a lot of stuff, right here on Greenwood or whatever, but there are just little areas that we could really kind of target a patrol that I think would be really beneficial.
And the pilot program in Trinidad is an ongoing thing right now. Are there results from that?
I can email you some details.
Pretty positive.
Yeah, I'd prefer that. Stay whatever they want to release for that,
Sure.
because that's not even public. But I did talk to them briefly, and they were more than willing to talk to you guys about co-opting something, which, gives you more, use the term bang for your buck, but.
And we've worked with Trinidad over the years. We've split deputies with them. We've always basically had a shared deputy. We've shared Measure Z funding. So we have a pretty good relationship with Trinidad because they're kind of in the same boat too. They're.
Are you guys 1.5 deputies or 1?
We're just one.
So they're 1.5. Apparently not even getting 0.5.
Oh, I'm sure we're not.
So. I haven't had discussion. If this was to go forward, my recommendation would be to sit down with the sheriff or undersheriff and see where they're at on that. I have a feeling they're more than happy to have the extra help because hiring issues for everybody right now, and that's not getting better. I think I counted 14, 15 people in the last Rabbits Academy, something like that, only 30.
So what do you need from the commission on this? So just Or is this just a proposal at this point?
Yeah, I
Where
wanted
we
to
go?
bring it here to you guys first and, as public safety to, ask questions, bring up ideas, issues, concerns. We'll be kind of fleshing out more of a proposal. One of the things I have to back into a budget and I have to sit down with the sheriff and see, what makes the most sense. We obviously still have to have law enforcement services, but like at what level do we need it? If we backfill it with, a patrol like this, then what do we have to pay for? We have to pay for capacity in the jail, we have to pay for major crimes response. But if we're not paying for patrol, maybe that amount of, the budget can go over, to something like this. So, just trying to kind of piece it together because we can't not have any law enforcement at all. And as an incorporated city, we still have to pay for that.
I could make a suggestion, and I don't know, I've been to this town several times. I was here a couple weeks ago for something, but I'm not sure what businesses you have here, but a lot of times you'll get buy-in from businesses that, some businesses might get a reduction on their insurance. I've heard that. I've not seen what number that equates to, but I know that some of our clients do get it, a little bit of a break on their insurance, but you may get some buy-in from the businesses folks where they, I don't know how you're set up for even doing that, but I know in the past, redevelopment, Rica Main Street, those kind of things have played a big part of what we've provided. So I don't know what you guys have in place to even implement that, but those are all those options.
Well, I don't anticipate there being any negative, feedback because of this. We have to look at the liability side, but Trinidad's already talking. We have the same risk management group. So that's good. And I've had this conversation before with Sierra about can we do this? They have a lot of other cities who have, patrols like this as well. So.
I like the added little wrinkle of that people are kind of predictive in their behavior and this kind of throws them off. There's this gray area.
Yeah.
I feel like there was a small portion of our business license fees in Elk Grove, in the part of Elk Grove that I lived in, that went towards helping to pay for that thing, for the patrol also, so
Right.
just for thought for the future.
Yeah, I know, like Eureka Main Street Business Improvement District, where they have that, and normally they have a Old Town officer assigned. They don't even have that right now. Not even a dedicated Old Town officer, which is unfortunate because they need it.
So what do you have staffing wise? I mean, can you take this on?
Yeah, I mean, I've got, well, I'll be honest, the Trinidad thing has been in the pipe for a long time. So that's been, and I think it was just some logistical challenges and then they had some stuff going on and then, COVID and what else, whether there was earthquakes and everything, kind of just put things back. But, what I try to do is not necessarily, hire a bunch of people in uniform. We try to hire the people for the position. Right now I've got, the people we're looking at for these kind of positions, retired law enforcement.
Right.
So, I mean, the short answer is yes. These kind of positions are probably more preferable than a posted position, just because posted positions get old pretty quick because you deal with the same people almost daily. So, that being said, I wouldn't anticipate a hiring issue. For us, all the years I've been in business, the hiring thing has been an issue for the last 3 years or so. I think that's universal, but I see us coming out of that now. I've got more, because we're getting into our event season now, but more applications in the last 6 months than I have in the last 3 years.
Oh, wow.
So that's kind of an indicator of where we are from, I guess it was the free COVID money. I don't know exactly what kept people from working, but we're kind of coming out of that slump right now. So.
But does the city have plans on more like festivals in the park and things like that?
Absolutely,
Would this
yeah.
help out with any of those?
I think it
events?
could, yeah. I mean, we've never really, the only event we've had that we required some kind of security was when we had the Michael Bronte concert. And that was just really because of the number of people, and we had never done it before, and we weren't really sure, you know, how it was gonna play out, and ended up being, you know, great. And most of our stuff is pretty, you know, like Annie and Mary Day, it's, you know, it's pretty local and stuff, but, you know, just, I think it's always an opportunity though for community outreach. You know, if you have large numbers of people, you know, we've always asked, you know, even the deputies, like, hey, just come and like walk through and visit, you know, like come to the kids' baseball game and introduce yourself, you know, and go cheer for the kids, you know, more just as like a goodwill gesture and a community building gesture than it is really for security. So I think the biggest thing for me would be thinking about a schedule and what makes the most sense. I think the two things that we have, I have speeding cars, and then I have late night, you know, little burglaries, sometimes they're bigger, for like petty things like stealing cycling gas, or someone leaves their bike, you know, on the sidewalk and someone walks off with it. And those happen at two completely different times. And I don't know if there's the ability to have like some spot patrols, like maybe even like working with Trinidad on like someone coming through, maybe they're hitting, you know, a bit here just for some traffic stuff. Because we have Greenwood right here, especially with the kids, and everyone flies. The other day I saw a car pass someone in the other lane and drove all the way in the other lane all the way to the stop sign at probably 45 miles an hour. It's like the kids just got out of school, you know, I mean, it's just that kind of stuff. But that stuff can be kind of tamped down too, with just, you know, all of a sudden people are like, oh, you know, there might be someone out there. And I know you can't do necessarily, you know, vehicle code stuff, but just even someone seeing that, like I said, I've sat out there in a chair with a, you know, pad of paper and my phone, and you just see people hit their brakes. You know?
So that's, there's if you guys work client, there's probably tons of recommendations you could make. Even I discussed, I've got CEPTED training, which is the community crime prevention through environmental design. You guys are aware of that, but it's there's a lot of good information out there about how you can reduce some of those, mitigate some of your problems that you're having, like these areas that you have concern about. Some little cost measures to make those a little more friendly, user friendly. But that's all comes with, I mean, you know, if you're a client and we see something, we'll write a recommendation.
Okay. And then is it based on like an hourly rate, or do you do like a monthly service with a number of hours?
Well, this is all kind of new territory. As far as what we're doing with Trinidad, number one, it's a ways out of our normal area. I mean, we have patrol guys that pretty much stop at Cada at this point. So this is a little bit different. Without going into a bunch of details, they've agreed to cover travel time to get there. So that's why I'm thinking there's probably room for a co-op, because they're not asking for a ton of hours without going into detail. So, you know, making it a more beneficial trip for us to get to Trinidad. You know, we're at Trinidad, Blue Lake's right here, so it's not like a stretch. You know, spreading the cost makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, without sounding like a sales pitch, because you know, there's no shortage of business for me. So, you know, I look at this more of a community thing. You know, I mean, I don't live here, but I love to see Humboldt flourish and save what safe towns we have left. You know, so that's kind of my angle. I'm not going to be a real huge moneymaker for us, I mean, to be perfectly honest. But you know, I think people generally, a lot of the business we get is word of mouth, or you know, it's kind of like things catch on. So I mean, I could send you 100 articles that are probably written in the last month about where we're going with the future of law enforcement. And sadly, as it is, more areas are going to have to privatize if they want to protect their communities. And it's just the way it is, because nobody wants to be a cop anymore. So not enough people anyway, not enough good people. So we're in a real jam from a community standpoint. And I say that because I'm a father of 4 kids, not because I'm trying to sell you anything. But so it's a tough situation for everybody, but I think I applaud you for, you You're probably the first politician that I've heard say, do something preventative. Usually
Not
it's
really
very
not a
reactionary.
politician.
I mean, honestly, 25 years, I've never heard a politician actually say that, so I think that's worth applauding that, you're forward thinking, because people mostly react to things like, oh, well, so we realize that's a crime wave, and now what do we do? It's like, well, I don't know, but it's easier to get ahead of things than it is to catch up to them. That's with everything.
Well, and we're, honestly, we're trying to build some economy out here too. And it's,
I think it's great.
and to get people to invest and want to bring their business out and stuff, it's, we've got to stay ahead of it.
I'd move here if I was closer to my mom, but she lives in Eureka, so I'd have to bring her with me,
Yeah.
which, not ready for that yet. So. It's a nice area, and I've always, growing up here, I remember my first time Annie Mary days, which still call it.
Yeah.
Coming here as a kid, we used to come around every year, so.
Yeah, it's a good little community, but we definitely, and things get amplified because of social media. So, we've always had, stuff has always happened. There's always been, little pockets of things here and there. But now you see it all, everyone's like posted on social media. So all of a sudden it's like, what was probably not really, like our crime rates have definitely not gone up, but it feels like it because all of a sudden you're seeing it, and it's like, oh God, 87 comments later, and it's like all of a sudden there's a vigilante group and it's like, oh my gosh, okay, well.
Or do you guys, are your statistics, are they included in the, I don't even know what the sheriff calls their.
Citizen rims.
The rims. Do you guys, is that outline, you see those?
Yeah, and then Margaret sends us the patrol stats as well, so we have those.
Yeah, those are usually, those are as generic as they are. To some degree, you guys probably have more privy information, but for the public, they're super generic, but it does help you kind of focus on areas that are problematic.
Well, and I really thought it was going to be a great tool because, in my mind, like, okay, we can map everything, we can see what times, and it's just so sporadic and so, it's so few.
Fortune is compared to Eureka's and everybody else's is night and day. It's super complete and it's easier to map things out. But I wish some of the other agencies would follow suit, but they don't.
Yeah, I think it mostly, when you look at ours though, there's just really nothing on there because there's nothing really happening, honestly.
Well,
so you're like,
sadly, a lot of crimes
back.
don't get reported too. People know the result. If you got a broken window, you call the police, you know what's going to happen. They're going to say, okay, here's your report, file an insurance claim. You drive to Eureka, we probably counted the number of windows we have broken out. We get 10 calls a week for businesses that got to hire a guard to sit on the window because they're 2 weeks out for a company to come and fix it. So it's a conundrum.
So the majority of what you'd be doing would be just patrol. Do you ever go hands-on, or what is the capacity?
We try to avoid that. But, her and I had the discussion as well. We've got an officer. We probably are one of the few companies that actually allows our officers to use, force to defend themselves or somebody else. A lot of companies have a strict observe and report policy. Personally, I've never had that, and I'm not seeing the point of that because, you hire security expecting a certain amount of security, right? And if you're going to hire somebody that's just going to sit there and call the police, well, you could probably have neighborhood watch do that. So, that being said, we, 99.9% of the time, my guys will talk their way out of it, observe, call police, get, if it's aggression, but, we have no shortage of run-ins with people, that are quietly, frankly, they're violent, and it's, I would rather have them attacking one of my guys than one of your business people, so, I don't think I have anybody on my staff right now that would, probably not hesitate to, come and protect one of you guys if you were in trouble. So, that's the short answer, so.
So Stephanie, you came in a little bit late.
Apologies,
So that's all right.
one of those days.
No, I just wanted to introduce Gene. He's with Pacific Coast Security, and they are going to be doing a project with Trinidad. And so I talked to Eli up at Trinidad about contacting them and seeing if, you know, if there was something that could be done with Blue Lake as well. And so I got a hold of Gene, and he was, you know, was kind enough to come out here, and so this is opportunity to kind of ask questions, and I'm going to do some more research and work with them on maybe more of like a proposal. We are expecting a fairly significant, I was told to expect a significant increase to our budget, our contract for the sheriff. So that's a big concern. And then just plus our level of service, and like, are we really getting what the community needs? You know, there's shortages across the board in law enforcement. And so it's not necessarily you know, that we're not, you know, getting it because they don't want to provide it. It's just that the resources aren't there. So something like this could be a really good fit for Blue Lake. More targeted patrols, we would be able to work with them to, you know, kind of meet our needs, meet our business needs, focus more of our effort, just being able to be, you know, in the driver's seat a little bit, where right now we're just kind of at the mercy of, you know, when patrols happen, they happen. If someone has time, they come through, but that's about it. So. I don't know if you have any questions.
You may have already discussed this, but were you talking about a certain time of day schedule, or is it too early to talk about that?
Yeah, so I know because this is public, I was not willing to share what Trinidad is doing. That's kind of confidential information, but you know, that being said, it's kind of an open book, really. I mean, it's an open slate as far as, you know, what you guys wanted, and you know, I think they've put out some hours that I probably wouldn't agree with, you know, but I think that they must have some justification for that. You know, oddly enough, most burglaries occur like early morning hours, you know, so statistically, you know, like 6 to 10 is when they occur for some odd reasons, because you're going off to work and people watch in and they burglarize your house. But, you know, they're kind of, I would say, without telling you exactly, they're all over the board. So I think they're going to try to figure out what works for them, but because they're a little more on the main drag than you guys are, you know, I think they never know when trouble is going to show up. So I think it's going to be a little bit of trial and error with them, but I think if there potentially was a buy-in from Blue Lake, that you know, they could benefit from your buy-in as well. You can. So it's not really that far. You know how many miles it is?
20.
Is it 20 from
Yeah.
one way?
20 something. Yeah.
From here to Trinidad?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't feel that far.
Takes as long to get there as it does to Eureka.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's not, I mean, not a lot of miles. It's 20 miles, you know, so 20-minute drive, but, you know, it's still, sadly enough, probably a better response time than law enforcement.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
So, I mean, if we didn't even speed, so, we don't speed, by the way. But that's, I mean, even, you know, 20 minutes response time is not too bad. You know, if you guys say, you know, we've got a business call, and hey, there's a car parked across the street from my, you know, potentially whatever, you know, that kind of stuff. We respond to those kind of calls all the time. People just, you know, feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
A lot of that these days.
So there
It's
wouldn't
probably
be-
warranted.
There wouldn't be times when you're dedicated to Blue Lake, then you'd always be responding to Trinidad.
We don't, I mean, that's like, we don't even have a set schedule for them yet. So, I mean, we have a tentative schedule, so, but I think they're open to maximizing.
Share costs, share.
Mhm. Yeah, I think they're open to maximizing. I mean, she said you guys share the same risk manager. So they've got our contract. They didn't, thank God they didn't send it back, because they just had that fixed from my attorney, you know, to the tune of a lot of money. So they didn't send it back, so they're okay with our agreement the way it was written. Generally, somebody says something, so they were okay with it. There would still be an MOU as far as what they expect and what we're going to do for them. But overall, it's you know, I'd say we're almost there. We have a tentative date set for time.
What's the majority of your calls look like? Are they in response
Homeless, transients, unwanted persons.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, vast majority. It's we have a ton of retail theft. I mean, as you can imagine, I could go to any one of our clients right now and sit there for 5 minutes and make an arrest for shoplifting. It's that bad right now. If you guys don't have a shoplifting problem here, I menu.
Get on your
Because
business
everybody else
list.
does.
We don't have anywhere to shop with
You
from.
don't have any, I mean, you do have a menu here still, right? That's the casino.
Yeah, the casino across the
Yeah,
boulevard.
yeah, so they're kind of monitor their own, but,
It's mostly petty stuff.
yeah.
Smash
yeah.
and grab, siphoning gas, occasional
Yeah.
car theft, but.
My kid got his gas siphoned the other night, he couldn't believe it, he says, that happens? I said, "Well, yeah, I really did shelter you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, not to say it's perfect, but it does cut down, we do patrol stuff for people, we do see, because we see the statistics, so we do see a reduction in calls. Sometimes we see a little bit of uptake, and that's generally because we're making arrests. So that, they count that as a call, so you made 6 arrests, now we got 6 calls compared to 1 call last week, but I got 10 less calls for reports for theft, so it's kind of you have to, CAD reports are a little deceiving because they put it's very minimal what they put into those things. So, like, for instance, you have a bar here and there's 30 calls to that bar, 29 of them could have been patrol checks.
Right.
Unless you read the CAD entry in detail beyond what they give you, it's statistics can be exactly what you want them to say.
And we've had that problem where we've had designated patrol checks at City Hall parking lot just here, and then the park, and then all of a sudden people were like, oh my gosh, look at all the crimes.
Yeah.
The sheriff is constantly going there. I'm like, no, that's a patrol check. Like,
Causing
they have
a lot of
they have
dots,
to,
yeah.
yeah. Like,
Yeah, and we get that all the time. Clients will look on CAD or RIM or something.
Yeah.
Like, oh, what's going on? Like,
And there are times a year where we have, like, when the summer, if we ever get to summer, there are a lot of people that come out to use the river.
Oh, yeah.
And that's, we get
Being
so inundated, and it's so dangerous, so being able to have, security who's just driving there, even just to, like, slow traffic down. And we have
Yeah.
all these kids froggering across to get to the river, they've got pool floaties, and, people are distracted, it's not so much that there's a lot of crime that happens. I mean, I have heard of people getting, their cars broken into, but it's pretty rare. But it's more just like, everyone slow down and be conscientious, because we have a weird intersection of users. We have, like, the gravel trucks, we have the river users, we have, people just trying to get home, and so, you have a gravel truck going 35 through there, and a kid's trying to get across to, go down the river. It's just,
well, I actually have a car, if you're interested in looking about. I mean, they're clearly marked. They
Yeah.
say security in big block lettering, but oddly enough, I mean, I've worked with people for a couple of years before they realize I'm security.
right.
So yeah, people don't really process, they just see a call or whatever, they slow down. And then, I'm all for that. I mean,
Yeah.
we had, in Eureka, they parked a little public service truck by my kid's school today, and I thought it's nice because people at least think,
Yeah.
geez, I was really speeding there. Glad that wasn't a cop.
Well, you have to get their attention, and that's one of the
Yeah.
things that we've seen is that people are so distracted, they don't even realize. When we first put the radar signs in, people were like, oh my gosh, like,
Right.
I did not know I was going that fast. Like, I never checked, and it's like, yeah, you're doing 35 in, like, the 15-mile-an-hour zone. But it was, people just get in a routine, so if you see something like that, and no matter what, like I said, if I sit out there, I'll get people to slow down just because they're like, oh, she's calling the cops, I'm like, I took a picture and I'm writing it down, and, I'm not doing anything, but.
CHP still handles your traffic stuff here, right? Sort of?
Sort of. It's kind of
Practically.
this weird, like, no one wants to really do it. The sheriff will say, oh, we don't do traffic, that's really CHP, but we contract for it, so it's an enforcement of our municipal code as well.
Right.
And then they'll say, well, we don't have anyone that's trained to do traffic. And so we actually had partnered a while back and got one of their deputies certified to use a radar gun, and I bought a radar gun, and then, proceeded to go to a different agency or whatever. So I have a radar gun under my desk. I'm like,
Just stand
wow,
there
I'll
and
just-
hold it. I mean, I think people, having 4 kids, I really pay attention to people speeding in schools and driving recklessly, and that's a big thing where we're at in Eureka. It's kind of nuts, but I think people, lately we've got a new SRO that parks his patrol car. I know he's not watching, but he's parked his patrol car, and everybody stops, comes to complete stop,
Yeah.
signals, so there's effectiveness just in presence, but.
Yeah, for sure.
It's, these guys, I mean, you just gotta focus on what's important to you, because you clearly can't solve everything, but,
Well, I think the businesses would be ecstatic. I think the community would be very supportive. My big thing is just having the flexibility to be like, hey, this quarter, this is kind of what we need, but we're moving into spring, summer, and we're gonna, we wanna have some flexibility to be like, hey, can we shift some patrol
Yeah.
times or do some or
I
something?
mean, that is one of the benefits. I mean, I'm a terrible salesperson, but one of the benefits of private companies is that, we pretty much give everybody a 30-day out. Sometimes less, if I've got a client that for whatever reason, financial reasons from their part, or something's just not right, and they need to, fine, I don't need 30 days, as long as it's good faith, because I usually schedule 2 weeks out, if I have to tell my 2 weeks, I'm sorry, got what you got, but, I try to be flexible, because I understand that, things come up, but I think for you guys, having the ability, I mean, unfortunately, there's not a lot of us around, but, that being said, there could be a new company tomorrow that starts up here. But, having the flexibility, we can, within reason, we can switch officers if somebody has a bad experience with an officer, which, thank the Lord, we don't have a lot of that. I got one driving complaint the other day, but it was against me. Yeah. So a lady complained that I was driving recklessly, and I said, well, that's funny, because I was the driver, and none of that happened. And she said, oh, she just clicked. So I don't know what, so occasionally you have people that just don't want to, for whatever reason. You're going to get some of those people. I can guarantee you're going to have a handful of people that just say, this is not okay. We're not the Gestapo, and, we could call all kinds of names. But, I'm always willing to sit down and talk to people like that and say, hey, give us a chance, or, usually people that are negative about things usually come around, they just, that was not what I thought it was. And unfortunately, as security, we get lumped in with even some of the bad law enforcement experiences because they think we're all under one big umbrella. So we take a lot of the repercussion from a bad law enforcement experience across the nation that, people still treat us poorly. So, once they realize we're not the police, they're like, oh, okay.
Well, and I could see, with the way, so this commission will sometimes invite like a neighborhood to participate in the meeting, because we don't get a lot of people participating, which is good, because I always tell them, like, don't feel bad that no one's coming. It means that they don't have anything that they're really concerned about, because otherwise they would be here, right? So it's okay. But they do specific outreach, because every neighborhood's a little bit different. Like I live closer down to the casino. So my experiences in Blake are a little bit different than someone up at Northfield Terrace who has no exposure to any of that. Someone living on Greenwood versus, someone living out towards, Judy's house. Yeah, it's like.
And that's stuff that could be included as part of the MOU to say, we're reluctant to sign on to any response times. But if if you guys say, I'm just thinking outside the box right now, if you guys had a MOU that if citizens were allowed to call a certain number, whatever number you have for them, and say, hey, there's this car that's been driving up down my street. Can you have security drive?
Right.
That's stuff that's in the purview of what we do. We do a lot of big events, and residual stuff bleeds over into the communities where they see the positive effect of our presence 24 hours a day, because we're just there, and they're like, I wish you guys were here all the time, because I can sleep without waking up and every little noise outside my house. So
Well, we
Eureka's a
could
little
use this opportunity to meet with the different neighborhoods, and maybe if Gene and someone from, your company could, just to get an idea of, like, hey, what are you guys seeing? What do you need? Like, how would we tailor this? Like, just to get the buy-in, you do the little community, business community, bring them together. I think that would be a good, and then we can kind of move into,
Yeah, I just was telling her I run the CERT program for, I never mix hats too much, but, so I do know a lot of your blue light residents. We just did a training for them, CPR and first aid.
Right.
So,
Are you on Teams?
No.
No.
So that's something I can help you with, by the way.
Okay.
So if you need that, like I've got somebody that's offering free training.
Oh, nice.
So.
I'll put you down
Yeah,
for June training.
it's 10 or 12 per class, I can't remember.
Okay, great.
So, yeah, so, I mean, I know quite a few of the Blue Lake people, but they're mostly probably people, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we have a good little CERT crew.
You know, so.
I'd like to have you back at another meeting as well too, because I know that as word gets out, there's gonna be a lot of questions. And
Sure.
we can kind of
And if
Bring
you, I
back-
mean, you could get a list of questions, I'd be happy to respond to
Yeah.
them as best I could. You know, that's what I mean, we've had similar situations like this where kind of the way it ends up is they invite, like you were saying, a couple community members, interested community members that do an ad hoc committee where you know, kind of develop your vision. That would be my suggestion, or probably where I see everybody else end up at that point is kind of like developing the, you know, gives community a little bit more buy-in about what they're doing. You know, but yeah, I mean, my phone's always on, so feel free to, I do text the best. So if you got a question that needs an answer, text it to me and I'll get back to you pretty quick. But yeah, it's pretty much, and then the only caveat I would say, and like I told Trinidad the same thing, is, you know, here today, gone tomorrow. You know, and that doesn't mean jump on this now, but, you know, I don't keep a backstop, you know, to prospective candidates to sit around waiting to work. So, you know, right now, you know, quite honestly, if I had 20, 30, 40 employees, I could probably put them to work, but there's that much business right now. But that being said, I kind of turn down a lot of business because a lot of the stuff is just not something if I wouldn't do it personally, I don't ask my people to do it. So.
Well, I know
Is
for
your
sure
phone- oh,
we want to do it. I know that, you know, this has been a focus, this has been something the council has talked about, so I know we're serious about the situation, because like I said, we need to stay ahead of the issues before we, like you said, fall behind.
I don't keep a list of references, but I'm pretty comfortable telling you could call any of the agencies around here and ask them, the sheriff and under sheriff as well. We work, I'm trying to think if there's any agencies we don't work with. We don't really work with CHP, but we work with them all the time, not directly, but.
And is your contract 6 months, year typically?
Well, I just say, we can make it whatever works, you know, I'm not big on year contracts, especially if it's a new program for both of us, because we make it into this and go, this is way more than we bargained for, or you might say this is, you know, working out for some reason, but, you know, we leave in a clause for the, you know, contract, or just clause, or, you know, I'm really open to that, I'm not so I don't have to check with anybody. I say, oh, okay, thanks, appreciate it. You know, and I would, you know, I think we would look, you know, for at least 30 days, 90 days, something like that. I mean, that would be ideal. That way I can, you know, at least tell an assigned officer that he's got a solid position for 90 days. And that's kind of important because a lot of, like I said, families and stuff. So when they end up one job, they just go to a new job. So.
Great,
Change it up.
thank you.
Yeah.
Is there any more questions for Jean?
Thank you.
Yeah,
We'll get you back in the future here to.
Sounds good, yeah, and
meeting with-
if you just give me like a week's notice, is
Yeah,
usually
yeah.
good, and I am
Yeah.
leaving town. Scheduled to leave town for a couple weeks in June.
Okay, and these guys meet the first Monday of the month.
Okay, yeah, so you just give me a heads up. I
Okay,
can
yeah.
make it
And
happen.
we'll just stay in contact, because I want to start kind of pulling together some logistics. I have to pull together like some budget
Okay.
stuff, but it's actually a good time because we're going to be going into budgets anyway,
Yeah.
so it
And
might be a good time for everyone.
We could do a Zoom or something, and meet with Cheryl Flynn.
Okay,
Or
yeah.
Eli, or whoever they,
Yeah,
whoever
that would be
the
great.
person is, so, all right.
Great, well,
I
thanks so
appreciate it.
much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Nice to meet you, Justin. So where do I go to see the,
It'll be all over the Blue Lake pages.
uh,
I'll post links to it.
We don't watch
You add me to your friends list too?
it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to item number 8, the tabletop exercise discussion and update.
Yeah, so I have sent a request to Ryan Derby to get some information and see about working with him to pull something together. Ryan's kind of in the same position right now as Andrew. Everyone is just out on, disasters. So
Is he Red Cross?
he's with OES.
Okay.
Yeah. And we want to do a Blue Lake centric tabletop, but I would like OES to be there and help us because it's also talking, we need to look at what our agency partners are and resources. So even though we might not have access to them at, during this event, we still need to be thinking that through and educate ourselves on what really is available out there that we could be thinking about. Because it'll be part of your, your after action plan and, kind of your progressive action plan for any type of disaster. So I'm just waiting to hear back from Ryan on what his time frame might be and what his suggestions are at this point.
Did we settle on earthquake, or is that?
Yeah, we said an
Okay.
earthquake and I think that's a good one because you can run all kinds of scenarios off of that. Broken gas lines, potential dam breach, like houses off their foundations.
Right.
You can do
Every
all kinds of
road getting closed
Yeah.
due to landslides.
landslides, yeah.
People are
Does
stuck
school be
here.
open to being involved in this?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I think there are critical peaks.
I never know sometimes.
Yeah, that should be fine.
Okay. Then we'll just table this to a future agenda item when we know a little bit more information. Okay, item number 10, sorry, public safety work plan discussion. Excuse me. Did everybody get a copy of the work plan? Everybody have these? We need to get, can we, for the next agenda, maybe send some out or email them out?
Yeah.
So everybody has one. I have one here. I mean, we've pretty much been chipping away at a lot of the items as it is. So wildfire safety preparedness is kind of be coming up pretty soon, sooner than we expect. Let's hope summer will be coming at some point. Not hope for fires, but so under that topic, the idea is to work with resource agencies in the city on some preparedness issues. I tend to, remind people in the spring to, clean your gutters and things because you never know. The embers are coming through from a fire. And then the city's hazard mitigation plan. There's some specific objectives in there that would really fall under the city commission, I guess. Community Observe and Report program. We're kind of in the surveillance program. Where are we at with that? We were going to look at some budget issues on maybe some cameras.
Yeah, I think we have some options to get some cameras. I think it's more of a spring project. I really just, I have the budget for it. I have, we've talked with Diora, Blue Heron, and Keiko and Del Arte. Those are kind of the main ones right now that will help us get a good coverage of the downtown.
So this round is more business centric.
Yeah, I mean, there's only so many ins and outs of Blue Lake, and I think the downtown specifically is, it's a good sector to focus on. At one point you're going to get traffic coming from somewhere because we've already got them, all the stuff at Stardos, and the museum has some cameras. I think Abundance has some cameras. Like we're pretty good over on that side, but Del Arte is a really good building because we could get cameras on all sides of it. So that gives us some other good visuals. And then Theora and Keiko having it on their business gives us a good visual across the street to the town square. The town square is going to be going out to bid this spring, and part of that will be running up the electrical and stuff. So we've talked about getting some integrated cameras in that area too, so that could be helpful because we'll at least have the power supply there. So it's just an ongoing you know, and it's one of those projects they're gonna need someone to install them. Theora thinks she has resources, but I feel like we're all kind of like hermits right now. No one wants to come out and do anything outside. So it's a good spring, summer project to, you know, get those installed and do all the wiring and stuff.
Okay. And the Go Slow campaign, where are we at on that?
Yeah, so the Arts and Heritage Commission has been working on that, and they have talked about like a little spring artwork campaign as a pop-up, you know, talking about also getting some of the neighborhoods involved, see if some of the kids want to do a project. I've told them that, you know, the city could supply, you know, we could get some plywood, get it painted, just primered, and then get it out so the different neighborhoods could do kind of their own signage. And then they're continuing to look at opportunities under our LRSP, which is the traffic safety plan that was funded by Caltrans, which allows us to look at like lower cost improvements for traffic safety, including things like smaller little traffic circles or you know, installation of crosswalks in different places, using vegetation to help narrow down roadscapes to slow down traffic and different things. So we're looking at those options as well.
Does that tie into the traffic plan that SHN did? Is that a part of that?
Yes, so yeah,
Okay.
yeah, so that is the LRSP. So
Okay.
that's the plan. That's like the low cost plan
Okay.
objective. So what Caltrans wants are like replicable projects that don't cost $3 million to do. It's like if I had $10,000 or $5,000 or $30,000. So you start getting these like lower cost projects that actually are manageable by communities rather than having to wait for like the big pots of money to do something massive. Because a lot of times you can do something low cost to address issues. You know, like little traffic circles are a really easy one too. When you have, you know, up on High Street, it's a big, huge, wide open space. You know, we could neck that down by doing some nice, you know, diagonal parking along it, maybe doing a bump out with some planting. You could do center median treescaping. You could do at one of the four ways a smaller traffic circle that's just more decorative, but just does require people to slow down a little bit. And those things don't cost millions of dollars to do. So that was kind of the whole point of that whole plan, was to get to the point where we had manageable projects.
So that's, most of that's in the hands of the Arts and Heritage Commission.
Yeah, they're looking at it from just kind of the artsy side of it, but there's still a lot of, our engineers are also looking at opportunities to, you know, to provide feedback and engineering on some of those opportunities. But I think the pop-up art stuff, you know, the crosswalks and different things seems like a good fit for Arts and Heritage.
Okay. So, and we just talked about our tabletop exercise being moved to the future. And then community empowerment and outreach. We still need to update the safety brochure or get one going. We talked about that a lot, but.
I honestly don't think it's worth the time to do it.
Okay.
I don't see people taking brochures or doing anything with them. I think you're better off putting our efforts into something that's more of like, I hate to say this, more social media or something, you know, electronic. But people just don't hold on to brochures anymore, and you don't even like see people having them on like their refrigerator or something. But maybe making it more accessible through different means. You can still have the same information available, but just not in a printed brochure form.
Okay.
I think it had its place in time, and the information was good, but
Could we do like flyers at the post office or something?
yeah, we actually already have one.
Okay.
Which is, see, you didn't even know.
I knew we had one, but we needed to update it.
Yeah, I thought we were gonna
Well, we did like a 2-pager
Yeah.
that had all of the information.
Yeah.
You know, disaster preparedness, who you call, Red Cross numbers, sheriff numbers, all of it. So it's already done. It's just we took the stuff from the brochure and actually started working on it as well. So It's a little bit more of a comprehensive information sheet, but even that, we have that available when we get new residents and stuff coming in, we try and give them, and people are like, oh, that's okay, like, I don't need a lot of paperwork, I can buy it, because, people have information so readily available now. Everyone just is like, Siri, what's the number for the sheriff, versus like, where's that flyer that I had that, go find that number, so.
All right, that sounds good. I think that's all we have for that item. For the work plan discussion, I guess. Is there any other discussion on that? Good, okay. And we'll move on to item 11 is agency check-in. We normally have a representative from the Sheriff's Department here to give us stats and talk about what they have going on. But there's said staffing issues right now.
We haven't had them for a long time.
Changes with sergeants and things like that. So we'll work on getting that possibly in the future. And we don't have the stats for the Blue Lake Fire calls at this time as well. So we can move on to item 12, reports from city staff.
Let's see, what are our hot topics right now? Well, we're going into spring, which means we're going into construction season, so that's exciting. We are going to be doing an improvement project at the library and a little bit to City Hall. We have some ADA improvements that need to be made, so we're going to be redoing the walkway. We'll be redoing some of the parking. We have to expand the bathroom inside the library by like 2 inches. And that will kind of kick off probably some painting and stuff, kind of giving City Hall a little bit of a facelift. It's in desperate need of painting right now. We will be going out to bid for the town square. That project is funded by a state park grant, and that project will redo the town square. It'll include the installation of a bathroom, streetscape lighting around it, a water feature for the kids, some hardscaping, installation of power, so we can have our Christmas tree without having to have solar lights or plug in to the neighbors or have no lights at all. And some additional seating and art installations and some. So that should be a really fun project, and that's really going to be, hopefully, it's a catalyst for the downtown revitalization. We're also looking right now, working with the chamber and the businesses on kind of a little downtown investment, trying to get everyone kind of coordinated on thinking about spring and summer and markets and coordinated openings and pop-up events. So thinking about possibly doing a little bit of a small grant program for the downtown to maybe do some planters or some signage or maybe painting or something. So trying to give a little bit more push and support for the downtown. We're working on planning the markets like we did last year, which was really fun. Lots of events already getting scheduled. June 2nd through 3rd, that weekend is going to be the countywide Moonfest festival. It's a celebration of the 40th year of Return of the Jedi, which was filmed in large part in the Redwoods. So it was, it's something that the county as a whole and the Film Commission is working on kind of some co-branding so that all the communities have a part in it, which I think is going to be really fun. So we've been talking about we'll definitely do like a themed skate night, like a Star Wars skate night. We've talked about doing maybe a run or, just getting the businesses involved. If the logger can do a special drink special or, Bill at Low and Slow maybe, does a special weekend, meal that's themed around it or something, So it'll be fun. It'll be kind of a county-wide thing where you can, everywhere you go, someone's gonna be like pushing for, something with Star Wars, so that'll be fun. And they're really excited that Blue Lake is participating, we've been pushing really hard to get ourselves into the mix of everything. It's like, don't forget about Blue Lake, like, we want to be part of it too, so they're like, yes, like the skating and all this stuff, so it'll be fun. The Danco project is moving ahead. That will be, they just turned in their use permit application, and I believe that will be going to the Planning Commission in May for consideration and review. There's a lot of studies being done right now. Lots of special studies have been completed. The traffic study is being completed right now. We've had cultural studies done, or applicants had cultural studies done, special species studies, bio studies, wetland studies, every study you can imagine under CEQA. The design is really coming together, and they'll be presenting that. It's a mix. Right now it's 40 residential units. It's a mix. It's a mix of incomes. It's a mix of sizes. There are market rate units. There's low, mid, moderate income units, and there's 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units. And then there's also proposed, I think, 4 live work units, which is kind of cool. And that was really a push from the Arts and Heritage Commission to think about facilitating space for artisans to live and work, because artisans, rent is really high for space, and artisans usually kind of fall within that income bracket because it's tough to be an artist and be able to make it. So having a space where artisans can live and work in the same space brings a lot of value, and it brings a lot of value to a community. There's a lot of statistics about artisans and the vibrancy that they bring to space and the economics behind it. So it's pretty exciting because I could really see everyone kind of circulating and living and enjoying the space and having that interaction with artists. And so I'm excited about that. I think it's a win for everyone.
Excuse me. We've talked about in the past traveling doctors. That fizzle out, or?
Yeah, it's not really, well, I mean, I think they're proposing 4 market rate units in this development. So, but they're in the past, we had tried to shop it out, with like St. Joe's. They had a big influx of capital at one point to try and find housing for doctors and nurses and things, because there's a housing shortage for everyone. Yeah. But it seems like, we're a little bit far out of the way, and it seemed like a lot of that investment went into localities that were a little bit closer to those facilities. But there's always traveling nurses and stuff that are looking for spaces. I see a lot of rentals getting taken up in that way, which is unfortunate in some respects because they drive a really, really high price point. And so it does not incentivize any of the landlords to, keep their rents, at an affordable rate for families or individuals, because they can really, kind of drive that market. But yeah, it's right now, I think the last I saw was like 17,000 square feet of retail commercial space. We're working with a lot of businesses right now. Seems like every day we get another call. People are starting to hear about it. Businesses are starting to hear about it. They're really excited. It's more than we had even envisioned. So that's good. And there's a lot of master planning taking place. So the nice thing is Cash is the architect for this project. He's also the architect for Ryan and Alicia Russo, who have also submitted for their second phase development. And then Jim Morehouse and James Brown from Paradise K are also looking at developing down there, and Cash is their architect as well. So it's nice because we're able to really look at all the pieces in totality. So when we look at, parking, ingress, egress, where we, property lines, shared park space, green space, setbacks, all of that's, you know, the fire department, we've already had the fire department come in and review this, and we're having, we've had a lot of discussion with them about ingress and egress and capacity. And so it's, rather than having these things just kind of pop up haphazardly, like has been, you know, happening down there, it's like now this master plan's coming together. So it's actually looking really nice. I'm pretty excited about it. The bike park, we hope to break ground this spring. If things dry out, we're probably looking at kind of phasing the bike park. Phase 1 would be the dirt track. We've kind of looked at shifting the design of it a bit, which means we are shifting into some other property that we need to look at negotiating some options for use. But it would, by kind of rotating, it gives us a little bit more flexibility to make it a much nicer park. Because what we're seeing is it's going to really be a big feature. It's going to be a big draw for the community. It's going to be a big draw for those businesses. And it's going to be a really nice feature for anyone living down there, especially if you have kids. So thinking about, at first it was like, you know, just kind of this community thing, like we'll get some dirt, we'll build this and get it going. Now it's like, we really need to like do this right, because it's really going to be something pretty spectacular. So
Have you been to Samoa when they have an event that there's?
no, I
parking
haven't, but
and,
I've heard it's off the charts.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, they did not think about parking.
Yeah.
They did not think about any of those things ahead
Right.
of time. And yeah, it's
Well, and that's the nice thing
chaos.
about that area over there is that nothing is far from it. So if you had a park right here, you just literally hop across a bridge and you're right there. You know,
Right.
so we can really utilize, and that was kind of the goal of the development down there, was to make it more of a walkable space. You know, so you're not like, you know, you don't have to have 500 parking spaces and have everyone driving there. It's like, it's okay to park, you know, over at Perigo Park on the side, or the Gymkhana grounds, or the tennis courts, because you literally hop across a bridge and you're right there, you know, so
Right.
it's very accessible at that point. But yeah, so that's all moving forward as well. We've got a lot of moving pieces right now. We just need someone to take the first shovelful of dirt. But I think it's going to happen, you know, this summer. So yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot of projects happening. I looked at the patrol stats. I haven't seen anything really, you know, we've got the RV down towards the end of Taylor. I'm pretty sure that's on Pepe's property anyways. And so we've just been keeping an eye on that. I feed some feral cats down there on Tuesdays and Thursdays, so I interact with Aaron down there quite often, and let him know he's got to pick his stuff up, and I let Pepe know. And then the other feral cat ladies feed, so someone's feeding every day and interacting in that space every day, so there's a lot of eyes on that. But so far things have stayed fairly minimal. It's not the greatest situation for anyone, but could be a lot worse, and so we're just trying to kind of maintain what's there right now without it, you know, increasing in any way. So but other than that, you know, spring is around the corner. We've got lots of kids, lots of families out here. You know, we're working on several projects to improve traffic safety. Obviously, we've got lots of potholes everywhere and lots of holes. We'll be starting paving. I believe they'll start in May, possibly the end of April, but I don't know with this weather. We've got so much groundwater. There's holes popping up everywhere. Every spring is popping up a pothole. So we really do need to get things dried out a little bit more before a lot of paving takes place. But there's going to be a lot of paving in Blue Lake, which will be nice. It'll be
Is it going to be the Reading company or something?
I believe it's Mercer Frazier is going to be doing it. I think they were able to work out a plan. You have to have a specific, I think it's called like a gold shovel standard or something for PG&E. And no one locally had it, but it was worth it. I think packaging some projects together made it worthwhile for Mercer Frazier to try and go for that standard. So I think the last I heard is they were in the process of, you know, completing that paperwork. So yeah, so that'll be hopefully, I mean, like I said, it'll be the most paving we've ever seen. And the city gets, you know, like $20-some thousand a year for road stuff. So literally all we ever do is patch and just hope that we have a big project someday. But so hopefully this is going to be pretty helpful. So as bad as it is right now, it's gonna get a lot better. I think that's about all I have.
Okay.
All right. Item 13, future agenda items and announcements. Are there any announcements, first off, from anybody? All right. So for future agenda items, we'll have the Red Cross presenting their smoke detector giveaway program for the first Safety Sunday in May. And then I have community preparedness program update, I guess. Tabletop exercise, if we have any more information at that point, we'll bring that up. And then, I guess not for the next meeting, we probably won't have Jean, right? We need to work through some things first.
Yeah, I'm gonna work with Jean on some options and some considerations, and I need to talk with the sheriff too about what that future looks like. We're getting close to budget time anyways, so that was the first last week that I'd heard about a substantial increase, so.
So what is the process to actually make that happen? So really my question is, how long of a process is that?
I feel like this could be a very short process, honestly. I think on Jean's side, I think it's pretty straightforward. And the nice thing is they've already gone through our risk managers, who are Trinidad's risk managers. So they already have a go at the contract. And so that's nice that that's kind of out of the way. It'll really be, I think, talking with the sheriff about, like I said, level of service. Like if we're only paying for response for, and capacity in the jail, and we're not paying for an actual deputy patrol, then, it starts to make, I gotta just kind of figure out what those numbers are.
Have we talked numbers at all with him? Is it comparable? Are we gonna?
It's
spend
not comparable at all.
No.
No, I mean, this would be much more affordable for us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. It's just, like I said, you still have to pay for, major crimes, jail capacity, and response. But how much
But
is?
we don't have a whole lot of that out here, so we're paying for a lot of patrol that takes a lot of response time anyways.
Yeah.
So it'd be nice if we could get them out here. But he did mention something about if you guys have a number that people can call. So it doesn't sound like they're as, of course, because they're not as huge as the ones down in Sacramento.
Yeah.
But like they don't have a relay number where you can call and be like, hey, I'm at this address over here.
Yeah.
And you send them around.
It sounds like we could kind of maybe back into something like that, and it might be something where, I mean, I don't want to get stuck in the middle.
Right.
And
I sell houses in a place called Rancho Tehama,
Mhm.
which is a little private community out in Tehama County. And even their EMT and their fire department, everything is private to that little town.
Yeah.
And they do have a little switchboard number where people call in, and it's literally the sweet little old ladies in that town volunteer and answer those calls.
Right.
And then they're the only ones with that main number to
Mhm.
call the security company or the,
Right.
the EMTs and everything like that.
Right.
So I don't know, if that's something we want to get that involved in. But I mean, if we had people out here, it'd be nice to have a number to call.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I
We need to
think,
be able to contact them.
and I think this is kind of new, like, the last time I talked to them, they hadn't done any work with like a city.
Yeah.
As far as like, like they've done components of city, like they did like the Old Town Patrol. And that's great, defined space, and, it's more businesses, and a
Right.
city, there's a lot more factors involved, except that we're also very small.
Yeah,
And
this
we
is
don't-
smaller than my neighborhood.
Yeah.
And there's less
Right.
homes here, less
I know.
people than my old neighborhood
Yeah.
where we have this service happening.
Right.
Right,
So I think probably all options are on the table at this
Yeah.
point, and if it, became a problem, or people were just blowing up their phones constantly with, then maybe they look at like a different, process, or I don't know. But I think
It's exciting. Exciting.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it, because I really honestly think it's the best option for Blue Lake.
I think the
Always
citizens
does
of Blue Lake would like it a lot better because they're not happy with the response time from the sheriff.
Yeah.
So I think that people here would embrace this.
As long as people are comfortable that it's not gonna be like just rogue company running around,
Right,
roughing
right.
people up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Which I don't think, it didn't sound like
No.
anything like that, so.
yeah.
I
And
think
who
it-
would they rub up? Okay.
Right, well, but I think it sounds great.
Yeah.
So if there's no other announcements, then I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All right, so if there's no objections, all in favor, say aye.
Hi.
Then, hearing no objections, the meeting is now adjourned.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.